Okay, everybody, welcome to Fit with MS with your host, Wendy Sturek. Wendy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Russ.
Good. So today we want to go over, a very important thing for all the viewers out there, and that is getting to know what MS is. So what does MS stand for, Wendy?
MS stands for multiple sclerosis.
Okay, so what is the disease, and what would it look like for someone that has it?
Good question. So MS is an autoimmune disease, just like Parkinson's or rheumatoid arthritis or something. It's a disease where your body starts attacking itself. Nobody's really figured out why, but hopefully as this conversation goes on, there'll be a few things that we can piece together ourselves. So when people think of somebody with MS, they always think, oh, it's that person in a wheelchair or with a walking stick or something. But it's also known as the invisible disease because it attacks your entire immune system, your entire nervous system, sorry. So all the nerves that run from your brain to, say, to your hand or to your leg or to your bladder or even worse, your bowels, it can get affected. It'll chew away at the myelin that makes nerve induction really quick and easy, and makes it really difficult for people to control those body parts that it's attacking at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so for you that don't know, Wendy has MS. And when did it first start coming on, Wendy, for you?
Honestly, I was diagnosed just over 20 years ago, but I know now that I was exhibiting symptoms quite a bit before then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were your first few symptoms? For example, I've had a few friends and friends of friends that have been diagnosed with MS, and one of the first things to go was kind of some weird things going on with their vision.
Yes.
Is that a big one?
That's a huge one. That's hit me hard over the years. Yeah. So you develop like optic neuritis, or you can just go completely blind. I had an instance where the whole right side of my body was paralyzed. I couldn't move it. I had to call my brother, my older brother, to ask him to help me down the stairs and stuff and help get me to the bathroom. So it was really, really challenging, really difficult.
Okay.
But what was the final straw was my speech went.
Oh, no.
I know. It was crazy. And I was in the middle of a conversation with a girlfriend and having lunch at noon. And all of a sudden, I couldn't get my words out.
Oh, wow.
And she's looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? So that was sort of the last straw. And I finally went to my family doctor, and she'd seen me for all these little tiny symptoms before, which they kind of dismissed. They're like, if it doesn't go away within 2 weeks, we'll send you somewhere. But this one, she said, Wendy, this is kind of weird. So I'm going to send you to a neurologist. And that's when they finally diagnosed me.
Okay. And so that happened, you said, roughly 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So what was the feeling when they diagnosed you with MS? What was the initial feeling? Was it just like, oh my God, it was a death sentence? Did you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I grew up with an aunt, my mom's, one of my mom's younger sisters with MS. And she, like me, was diagnosed around the same time. I think she was diagnosed at 28.
Wow.
She was in a wheelchair by the time she was 30, and she never got out of it. And she just went progressively downhill. And to see everything that she went through, when I got my diagnosis, it was like putting a nail on the coffin. I thought, that's it. My life is over.
Yeah. So you're kind of, mid-20s? Or
yeah, about 26, 27.
So 26, 27, you get the news. And, back then there was no internet really.
It was just starting. It was just starting, but I didn't have one, as you know.
We won't tell you how old Wendy is, but she's not.
I'm not a spring chicken.
This beautiful light setup.
Yeah, this helps a lot. This is my face.
We're all wrinkle-free right now, but we're older than you think.
Yeah.
But, you get this sentence, basically death sentence going, well, not death sentence, but you're going to be in a wheelchair and you're going to die younger and you're going to have all these complications. You got to take all these medicines. And back then, the whole internet, as we know today, for younger people, no one had cell phones in high school. It was back then. It was kind of a time where, the internet was just coming, into existence. And so you couldn't research things. It's hard to find people other than doctors to tell you this is how it is. And at that time, for example, even like hepatitis C, that was a death sentence. That was just as bad as getting AIDS. But
It's
now
crazy,
they
eh?
have basically a cure for that, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah. So as you can see, imagine that when you're that age. And for those listening, some of them probably have similar stories. That this is something, and some people probably right now feel, wait, I still feel that way. I feel like the rest of my life is going to be a terrible prison sentence where I'm secured to a wheelchair or being handicapped. But what we want to start telling you is that is not the case, and you can definitely alleviate a lot of the symptoms by changing some things. So we're going to get into that in the next section. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, everyone. So we went over, what is MS, and then Wendy's, story of being diagnosed roughly 20 years ago. And we just want to go over, the initial shock and what were, the first little phase of having MS. What were the doctors saying that, sound completely asinine this day right now, because, Wendy, 20 years later, is basically symptom free of MS. And I know this because I train her. She's killing it. Just recently started powerlifting and learning how to strength train with me, and she's deadlifting double her body weight almost. And she's put on 15 pounds of muscle essentially. So, before that, she was doing triathlons, more endurance type stuff, things that you normally would never see someone with a, some sort of debilitating disease doing. So she's taken, her life by the balls, so to speak, even though she doesn't have any, but she's taken them, and she's, decided she's not going to be this victim anymore. She's not going to be, rolling around in a wheelchair and then dying an early death, but she's going to take, life in her hands. And she did that. So let's talk about, the first few years, you kind of had some rough patches, probably, what was going on there?
Well, it was devastating. Talking to the neurologist when I was diagnosed, he said, don't worry about your diet. He's like, none of that matters. He's like, wow. Yeah, just eat whatever you want, eat your comfort food, because you need comfort now. This is a really bad illness. Wow. And I asked about exercise, and he said, don't do that. He said, it's just going to poop you out. It's going to make you worse. He said, if you have to do anything, just do some seated yoga. And when I left the office that day, I was just crushed, because I was really just getting into running. And I was getting pretty fast too. So I'm like, how can you ask me to give this up? Yeah. And it made me feel good and stuff. But another thing that he said to me, he's like, okay, you don't have to decide today, but here's a list of the drugs that we're going to offer you. You decide which ones you want to take. And so I went home, and I didn't have a computer, but I did have a good friend who was a school teacher, and she had a computer. And I asked her, because I didn't tell my family any of this. My family didn't know I was diagnosed for at least 3 years later. Yeah, I had to hold it quiet because I didn't want them to think that I was going to end up like my aunt. Wow. Yeah. So anyways, my friend did a lot of research for me, and she found out that no, like there are a few people out there that are doing things with diet, and that aren't on medications. And some of these medications cause symptoms that are even worse than the disease itself. And I really didn't want to put myself through that. So I just kept running. And every time I had to go back to the neurologist, he'd say, okay, what drugs are you going to pick? What are we going to do? And I'm like, well, just give me some more time. Just give me some more time. So he'd be like, okay, but next time we'll pick one for you. And I'd just go home and, sign up for another race or something, and just kept going, got on with these new diets and just tried to experiment with that. It was a rocky road. Not all of the diets that I chose were perfect, but it was better than what I was doing. It was a bit of a sugar junkie, and, probably the not healthiest.
We'll go more into detail about all those, details for sure, and everything you did, kind of step by step, and just to help people out there. And that's kind of what we wanted to do with this video series, is reach out to anybody out there in the world, doesn't matter where you are, If you have MS and you just need someone to talk to, that's why we're here, specifically Wendy. But you know, as her trainer and kind of her mentor, I'm here to help as well. And if she needed any guidance to train people, but what we want to say is, like, you are not. This isn't the end of the world for you. And as we're finding with a lot of autoimmune diseases, is we can change, you know, basically become symptom free if we look into the diet, if we look into exercise, if we look into even mindset. If you've decided inside your head that, hey, you know what, that's it, I'm done, and you just sit on your couch and live in your self-pity and call it quits, then we know that anybody that feels like that will generally probably go on to get different diseases, just because of their mindset, or have a very limited life, which will lead to, probably an earlier death. So this is just the start of what we're about to tell you about, the steps you can take with MS and how you can make your life a hell of a lot different, a full 180, just by changing, these things. So stay tuned for our next episode. We're looking forward to helping you guys. So reach out right now if you need to. We're going to drop Wendy's Instagram here. And yeah, definitely tune in next time.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
Thanks so much, guys.